Hello everyone and welcome back to the Wicked Weekly. My name's Brian if you happen to be new around here, and for those of you who tuned in on the last live stream, I can officially say I'm now over 200 hours with this incredible game. In today's video, we're breaking it down like we always do. Thomas has actually started to share some new insights about what is coming with the next patch and an update on multiplayer, alongside a reason why game development, especially working with publishers, is a real risk. This is obviously building off of what happened with the Tim Sweeney and the Apple versus Epic ruling. So we'll cover that more later in the video. So that's going to be just for those of you who really kind of want to know some inside baseball. But first, we'll obviously start with the news. And without further ado, let's get into it. Thomas shares, and this is, I think, kind of really cool. He says that when you guys think the rest of the game is going to come, I hope that we don't have to wait for months again for these kind of updates, these big updates like the breach. And Thomas confirms what I've been telling you guys for the last couple of weeks. Their target is big updates every few months. Now, in the term of few, I would say replace that with 3. The number 3 is a perfect fit for what they're trying to do, the framework and the foundation that they've built, and that allows them to be able to get those things in, tested, and for us to be able to kind of break it all down and play and have a good time with it. So just pay attention to that. It could be 4, it could be 2. And as always, as a gamer myself, I'm rooting for sooner rather than later, but I can tell you with hands-on experience, this team can cook. And so we benefit when we let them cook. And I'm flailing my arms. You can't see it, but I just slapped the mic. So hopefully that didn't come across too unpleasant for the ears. All right, Thomas continues over on X. He says, folks, as you might have already noticed, we're taking a bit more time for the first Wicked Breach patch. Now, right after Breach released, as expected, we had to immediately release some hotfixes in order to take care of immediate balance, bug fixes, and quality of life stuff. During that time, we also looked at the feedback that we received, big and small, and watched an ungodly amount of you guys playing Wicked so that we could hone in on where we need to tighten things in order to make Wicked better and better. Now, this is what I've been telling you guys, and to kind of highlight it for those of you who might be new around here, they had this Crucible update last time. So they had the game launched, and then they really listened to what people were saying, big, small, content creators, regular gamers, the reviews, and then they made the Crucible update. It was a success, but obviously not what everybody was wanting. A lot of people were looking forward to the Breach update. This is pretty much that same kind of pattern repeating itself, only it's going to be a much tighter turnaround. So we're going to see them add in a bunch of really cool features, a bunch of quality of life stuff, new content, but it's not going to be as big as what the Breach did with Zones. So this is going to be driven based off of the conversation that we have here, the conversation on Discord, the conversation on the forums, and other various media outlets. I do not envy the devs because they do a great job going and collecting and getting this information, but it's important to understand that it is a pretty substantial task, and I do really appreciate the fact that they go through it. But just note, there are still things like they talked about with multiplayer. There are still things, and in fact, Thomas gives an update here in a second on that. But there are things that they're still working on that I know that you are personally excited for. I am as well, but that's just going to be something that will keep you guys up to date as this news breaks, as we have information to share. All right, Thomas continues in the same post. We are aiming extremely high with this patch, and we really will try to fix most of the concerns that people could still bring up while playing Wicked. Brian jumping in for those of you who are just using this from like an audio podcast. They talked about the upgrading of the fast travel, meaning not instant fast travel, but we could upgrade whispers, allowing us to get around the world map much easier. They've talked about being able to remove gym slots, things like that. Those are all really kind of big quality of life features that are on its way with this patch they're talking about. There's much more, and maybe I'll try to make a kind of a comprehensive video for those of you guys who want it later, but I just wanted to kind of highlight that because those are some of the things that really stand out to me personally. All right, he continues. On top of that, we're introducing entirely new features, tons and tons of polish, and we're going to just elevate Wicked to yet another level. Meanwhile, we're also already playtesting and polishing co-op, which is the next major update we will be releasing. So please stay tuned. We're all working extremely hard and are burning the midnight oil in order to get this all into your hands as fast as possible. Now, there's 2 ways to interpret this post. Either co-op is next, or co-op is sometimes after patch 1 and patch 1 is next. They're just needing a little bit more time for it to bake in the oven. Based off of what they shared mathematically, I've gone back and forth on this personally, but based off of how I read this post specifically, this is my personal interpretation. You're welcome to disagree, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on how you interpret this. It sounds like patch 1 is actually going to be first. That's going to introduce all those systems. And then shortly after, and shortly is a relative term here, then we're going to see the co-op multiplayer update. All in all, I guess we'll wait and see. And as soon as, again, those news breaks, we'll let you know. And obviously, the exciting thing, the No Rest for the Wicked official Twitter retweeting this. This gives me a lot of hope as a gamer, but also somebody who's a developer as well. Whenever you start to see more official announcements and things like that, that is to obviously highlight it to a wider range of people. That means that they're probably gearing up and, at least if nothing else, have a soft date in mind for when we could be seeing that. And I think that should give us all some hope and some excitement. Anyway, guys, I keep telling you guys, I love this game very much. Obviously 200 plus hours into it as a father of 6, which some of you are surprised by that fact. And I love seeing those in the comments. I always kind of like do a fake multiplier. So while it isn't officially like 1200, I do think that having kids and being a gamer should give you some kind of street cred out there. I don't know if it does or not. You could let me know. But anyway, I do want to say welcome in and thank you guys. We've got a lot of new faces around here over the last 29 days. Over 1,300 of you guys are brand new to the channel. I do appreciate you guys checking it out. Dell in this case says that I've earned their sub on the 3rd video. Welcome in. Canis, welcome in. I'm so glad to see you guys and that you're enjoying the content, especially those of you who resonate with the message of hope. And we will have another one of those here for you guys today, because if you guys aren't aware, June is Men's Mental Health Month, Awareness Month. So we'll talk a little bit about that later at the end of this video. All right, let's dive into Discord. So we covered X. Now we've got some Discord updates, and this is where I think things get a little bit fun. Obviously, this is more just Thomas talking more casually to us all. So I think this is where we get a lot of really good insight, and it's always fun to see when these things get paid off later down the road. Thomas, in reply to they think it's dumb that Thomas asked, like, hey, what kind of sells for early access? We covered this in a previous video last week. Thomas replies to this, nah, it's just interesting things that happen in the industry. Like, he tried V-Rising when that came out for the first time and he really didn't like it much, and then yet it still sold 4 million copies within a few months. So that's really crazy. And of course we thought we'd also like to sell a really good number, and our numbers are solid, but they're nowhere near having tapped into their full potential. And I'm just wondering, kind of a curiosity perspective, what is causing that? Also, I don't know about a small game. From what we were seeing, the average player spends 40 to 70 hours already to complete Wicked, and that's not a small game in my book. I think that's interesting. I'd love to know how many hours you guys personally already have with the game. We've been giving away copies of it, so it's interesting to see as people step into it, where they fall and what their enjoyment level is. And in fact, if you're still watching this video and you don't have a copy of Wicked and you want to perhaps win one, come hang out on a live stream and we can see if we can't get you a copy in your hands. All right, Thomas continues on. Well, damn, you guys folks already feel like we've been radio silent. We've just released hotfix not long ago, and patch number 1 will be insane. We're just also building up our community channels. I want to highlight this because it's inevitable, and I don't want to sit here. I know that you guys are well informed, and I try to give you guys all the latest information and keep us all well informed of what's going on. But obviously this is a small subsect of the overall gaming market. And so I do hope, and I think this is encouraging to see from them talking about more official updates. We saw that with Thomas posting about the job system over on the official forums, of which we covered. If you guys haven't, if that kind of makes you go, what was he talking about? Go check it out. It's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be really cool. But anyway, I want to highlight that because they are aware, but they also do communicate. I honestly cannot get behind the idea that they don't, but then again, I also follow this game like probably in a stalker like way. Let's be real. Like, I'm really obsessed with this game, and I just wanted to share it with you guys. So I appreciate y'all being here. All right. Let's highlight a couple other posts here. Sigdador, and hopefully I didn't butcher their name too bad, says V-Rising has a very strong PvE and PvP scene. It's also awesome that the game for streamers that you can also create your own server. Thomas replies, he says, same will be true for us. And we I'm really looking forward to seeing how the multiplayer comes together. There's been a lot of really cool ideas that he shared. There's concerns that I have, not necessarily for you guys, but I do also put my, content creator hat on and want to say, I like when I can play and we can all play together. But we're going to have to wait and see how it all comes together. And that will be feedback that will constantly evolve. My goal is to make the game, and to advocate, especially for y'all's best interest as opposed to like mine. But at the end of the day, I think that they can hopefully create a system that works great for just everyday gamers, and that content creators can also take advantage from a communal perspective. I think the best part about gaming is playing it with your friends and hanging out and talking about video games, and that's just what we're going to keep on keeping on doing. Also, as a confirmation, again, like what I alluded to earlier, the ability to remove gems from your gear is coming with patch number 1, and that's exciting to see. Now, let's transition into the Epic versus Apple concept and the real, I guess, how the sausage is made in terms of game development and profit share with this. And Thomas really kind of goes all in with some real interesting information. Again, the nerd in me really loves this. If you guys want to just jump to the message of hope, you can always use the chapter markers below, but it is what it is. Let's dive in. When Team Sweeney says this is also big for big and medium-sized developers and consumers regarding the lawsuit, the TLDR. Right now, it's being appealed by Apple and Google, but it does seem to have some merit that we might be actually seeing more competition in these preferred monopolies like the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. It's going to be interesting how this also might parallel into Steam, but Steam really isn't a monopoly, at least in the classic sense, but I would say it is a preferred monopoly in which that a lot of people just like to go and get their games, but we'll see how it impacts it. Thomas reposts Tim's comment, says, agrees as it stands, larger devs pay less and smaller devs pay more. It's hard to see the logic in that. It's fair for Valve to take a cut of every game sold extremely well on their platform, but 30% is a hell of a lot when developers still have to do most of the work themselves. Same is true for Apple and any other platform that charges 30%. I think what would be a really good compromise to the system in my mind is that maybe you can keep it at 30% after a certain tiered percentage. Like, let's say the first million, you're at 5%, then after that 10%, and you would tier it up so that smaller indie devs don't have to eat the whole pie. But then when you do cross over that threshold, every cell after that then has that, because you are benefiting from the larger platform. I think ultimately that would be the best move in all cases, and also a little bit more competitive, but very pro-consumer and pro-dev move. And the reason why it would be pro-consumer is that devs end up usually maybe even passing that cost on to you, but that's, I guess, all that's all going to be hit and miss, depending on the quality of the game, depending on the price that it's set at, and more. But Thomas kind of has this highlight, so let's break it all down. He says, since it's quite bananas that a lot of players still do not understand the economy behind game development, I thought I'd be best to break it down a real example in a really successful first-time developer who managed to make a deal with the publisher. They released a critically acclaimed game that sold 2 million copies at $20. How much did the dev team actually earn? Well, selling 2 million copies of your game can still leave you broke. Game dev economics are brutal. Let's break it down. You make a hit, you sell 2 million copies, and then you still can't fund your next game. And here's why. 1, your game cost $10 million to make. The publisher funded it. They also spent $2 million on marketing, so you owe them $12 million before you see a dime. Now, to kind of be fair to this, they funded it, so they covered the development costs. So it's not like you went into a real true debt, but it is still essentially like you got to pay the publisher back for all of their investment first. And I've seen this not just with indie devs, but a lot of studios out there have that same kind of approach. Same thing applies to the developers' bonuses, mind you. So I hired developers out of Gearbox, namely because from a bonus structure perspective, obviously every publisher, the devs, and then it would trickle down. So you would really want your game to be a success. It's one of the things that I've seen within gaming, and I'm really glad some companies have started pushing back against like Metacritic related bonuses in terms of it. Make it about sales as opposed to like some Metacritic score, but all of this is about funding and agreements, and so it's really interesting to see. Now, he goes on to say, you price the game at $20. Let's be real. Most sales happen during Steam discounts, so your average sales price is going to be around $10. You sell 2 million copies. Success, right? Gross revenue, $20 million. Now subtract platform fees. Steam takes 30%. So 20 million minus 30% is 14 million left. Publisher takes the first 12 million to recoup dev plus marketing. If you haven't made a cent yet, that leaves 2 million to split. Your deal with the publisher is 70-30 in the publisher's favor. So that gets you 600K and they keep 1.4 million. Now subtract tools, taxes, engine licenses, taxes, and you're left with just under $300,000. So after selling 2 million copies, you, the dev, have $300,000 in the bank. Your next game also cost 10 million. You got 2.9% of that. You made a hit. You can't afford to go again. And that's the trap. Success doesn't equal freedom, not when platforms, discounts, recoup, revenue splits, and taxes eat away everything else. Number 10, you want to self-fund your next game? Then you're in the current game has to sell more, stay at full price, or be self-published. Anything else is equals the cycle continues. Number 11, the TLDR. 2 million copies sold, 20 million earned, 300,000 in your pocket. The dev life is way less glamorous than it looks. So stay sharp and stay indie if you can. The highlight in this is, of course, staying indie. We've seen a lot of success in the indie space, and you can actually, it's all going to be about cost management. And when you look at the games that obviously get a lot of eyeballs, they tend to take people and resources to do so, which obviously increase your cost. But we've seen plenty of examples of kind of single devs really come out, make a massive hit, and obviously profit from that. And that's something that I think is really great about economics. I think that's really great about this industry. And I think that's really great about the gaming, in a whole. Now, that still, again, brings up these conversations about, is 30% right? Are there better, more equitable kind of splits and business deals? Yes. And the reason it ends up being is that he alluded to this earlier. The bigger publishers, they get these special deals. Tim Sweeney could have taken the deal with Apple and gotten a special rate that is only for, I guess, the biggest people. And that's because they have that negotiating power. Microsoft obviously doesn't pay 30%. They have a rate. They have an agreement because they can bring a lot to the table. So I get why those things exist, but it is disproportionately against the smaller devs, the smaller studios who are actually, I think, making the most innovation and the most fun gameplay elements out there to date. We've seen that decline within AAA. We've seen the rise of the AA, and that isn't to say their quality. I feel like AA quality has really risen, and they've been able to manage their costs, which makes them a little bit more profitable. TLDR, I think that's really interesting. Now, a couple of comment that was made: no effing way that your game, a game cost 10 million to produce and you sold for $20. And Thomas says it actually happens all the time. Gamers are extremely price sensitive. Sell your game for 30 or 40 and suddenly your sales expectation will be getting cut in half or even less than that. And it might then only perform well during steep sales. I think that's really interesting insight, and I hope that was valuable to you guys. I got a lot out of that. Somebody who really likes to see numbers and really kind of understands it, and especially as somebody who's making their own game, what should we price it at? What is it going to take to bring it to market? And we're self-funding, so that's going to be a lot of fun on that front. All right, guys, let's wrap it up today with our message of hope. Like I said in the start of the video, June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. What does that mean? Because at the end of the day, we've seen a lot, especially online. You can kind of get into two different echo chambers that men suck and, toxic, masculinity is this horrible thing. And then you can also kind of get this overcorrection in terms of women suck and they're evil. And you have that kind of manosphere perspective. I like to bring it back into the center, and I like to talk to you guys directly, because if you don't know, as iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another. You are not alone in your anxiety, in your depression, in your struggle, in your self-doubt. These are things that, guess what, make you a man. We're in this together, and I want you to believe and understand that, because I find that what direction you decide to go in this life, what struggles are going to be yours, because guess what, nobody's without them. In fact, all of our suffering, all of our struggles make us better understand each other. Who here doesn't bleed red? Now, if you bleed green, then, well, hello, welcome. Come in peace, please. But that joke aside, and a bad joke if we're being honest, that aside, we aren't alone. We aren't alone in this world. We aren't alone in this universe. We aren't alone in our suffering. We aren't alone. And that's when I can tell you from experience, any thought otherwise, saying that you are alone, you're the only person going through this, those are lies. Those aren't reflective of reality. Those aren't reflective of the truth. And it's going to come down to a belief system that you have, whether you believe in yourself and whether you believe you can, or if you believe you can't, guess what? You're right. Either direction. I want to encourage you to shift into that believing in yourself and believing that you can, because the true story is people overcome addiction every single day. People overcome, all their struggles. And the difference between like a boy and a man is really kind of training ourselves to start to say no. There's a lot that I would encourage you, especially about self-denial. And this could be from fasting. That could be fasting from food. It could be fasting from social media and fasting from video games. In fact, all of those things are really good fasts to have some balance in your life. In fact, if you're, using games to kind of cope and have that form of escape, you're not alone. Guess that's what a lot of us do. But I can tend to see people overcorrect in that, and those things can then become addictions. And you can overcome your addictions. You can overcome your struggles. You just need to believe that you can. And because you can, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I know that you actually have the power within you, and it's going to be the structure, and it's going to maybe take some time for you to believe that in yourself. And that's why one of the things I want to do is constantly remind you of that fact. If you're struggling with depression, I guarantee you, your friends want to hear your story rather than attend your funeral. Depression is no joking matter. It is not a thing that you can, that you're weak because you have it. It's not a thing that you can control all the time. And therapy and help is there for you. I would encourage you, especially this month, but all months, to reach out to a friend. Reach out, get some people in your corner. And get off the internet especially because that can easily drive that. Comparison is the thief of joy, and it's very easy to see how we can shift from counting our blessings to counting other people's blessings, and that is where it is a spiral into oblivion that's hard to pull yourself out of. But I'm going to encourage you guys, count your blessings. You have been uniquely blessed with various things, and you obviously have been challenged with other struggles, and that's just a fact of life, and that's something that I think is important to recognize. Anyway, I just wish you guys all the absolute best. Know that I'm praying for you. Please keep praying for me. God bless each and every one of you, and thanks so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. But until then, take care.
Rest for the wicked, we rise or we rot. This ain't no checkpoint, it's all that you've got. Grip tight the blade, feel the blood in your chest. One life, one shot, now